will convey that to my fellow members, but was there anything provided
I
from
honestly,
Wayne?
I don't know.
The only thing that I saw in the packet material that was given to us this evening was there was a comment where there was a waiver approved by the planning board for the poles to be above ground. There was no, now I couldn't get into both, there were two different packets that were included in Dropbox, and one of them wouldn't let me get in. I think there was too much data or something at my house, and I couldn't get it to come up. So I don't know if that included some of the detail. There was some discussion about the culture of the neighborhood, per se, the consistency of the neighborhood, and the planning board decided that it was okay as long as it was okay with the utility to have these above ground. I don't know if that was a lengthy discussion or not, but that's the way it was presented in the packet material that we got. I must say, I'm a little disappointed with that. I don't like these waivers on things that we're doing to try to change the culture of the entire town. You know, my ideal would be that if somebody comes in to add on to a neighborhood that's existing, well, then all the poles go underground and not give them a waiver to put them above, especially when it's right next door to our cemetery, that people are going to be there visiting their loved ones and see telephone poles that perhaps didn't need to be there. So those are the types of things that bother me about the waiver in this particular situation. So I'm disappointed that there's no further insight to it. I stopped down, spoke to one of the neighbors who was outside since our last meeting, and she was not the woman who was here. She was one of the neighbors. She didn't seem to be bothered either way as to what was done, and had not attended the meeting with the planning board. So those are my observations and comments.
All right, and just to confirm, you saw that the documents provided some indication that the planning board had considered the issue.
Yeah, it was actually in the findings. There was a list of waivers and I forget the terminology.
Typically, just waivers, conditions, yeah, that may be.
It was waivers of value
of
to the developer, is basically what it said. Waivers that give credit, in effect, to, or a benefit to the developer. It was listed, there were 2 or 3 items that were listed under that category, one of which was, you have it printed? I can probably find it pretty quick.
Is it in the covenant one?
Page 7.
It was not in the covenant.
Page 7 of the, if you'd like, I can. It was to provide utilities, provide overhead utility in lieu of underground utility. Having, I believe, started this hearing as a member of the planning board, early on the intention was to make the extension of Fowler Street look similar to the initial portion of Fowler Street, so that you didn't have a 16-foot roadway with above-ground utilities that would then lay forth to a 25-foot swath of pavement with underground utilities.
Got it. All right. I think that's a sufficient answer for my purposes.
Did they, Bill, if you know the answer to this, did they also waive sidewalks, given that sidewalks aren't currently on the existing portion of Fowler Street?
On that one, I honestly am not sure. I have not reviewed this in depth, this particular. I was not prepared for this.
Okay.
Right. I'd be happy to, provide if the board desires anything I can produce, I'll be happy to review and produce. I didn't work on this.
At the end of the hearing, we don't desire to keep continuing it forever.
Understand. And I apologize, a misunderstanding on my part. I didn't realize that I was unprepared for this.
Any other questions from the board about this particular query?
No.
All right. Members of the audience, we have any further comments or questions regarding this hearing issue? Yeah.
My name is Marty Maria, and I'm a developer. I thought I talked to Wayne this morning. He told me he talked to Kevin. I assume which we were kind of sweet. And then we talked to Jason, gave Jason a set of plans, discussed the whole situation of why they came to the decision of putting the poles on the ground and whatnot. And the other part of that was that there was other concessions. We gave the cemetery water and electricity, and also another conduit, so they would have some electricity and water in that building at the cemetery. And by that, they gave sidewalks up, they gave poles, they gave a bunch of other concessions that met with the whole package that we went for. And they asked for that, after we gave them that. And it was because of the keeping of the road, so everything would be the same, like it is now, an old country road going in, not all hot top, because there's supposed to be like a cul-de-sac that was weighed to a T, so it would be all hot top, so people would have a bigger frontage than having all hot top going around there, around the circle. And these are the things that the butters, and we had, I think, maybe 5, maybe 6 meetings to determine all these things. It wasn't like a clear-cut line thing. All the butters had their say, and everybody was for it. The whole project was, we did a lot of projects in my life, and this one went through so nice. All the butters were, you know, they wanted everything, you know, they got everything they wanted. And it worked out good for all of us. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Way in the back.
Hi, Alexander 9 Fowler Street. So yeah, so Eversource did come out, we met this morning, and I just wanted to clarify that actually I own both sides of the street there, but they explained everything, and I'm fine with how it is, so I want to thank them for taking the time to come out.
Very good, thank you. All right. Anything else the board wants to talk about regarding this hearing? All right, then make a motion that the board approve a grant of location to N-Star Electric Company doing business as Eversource Energy and Verizon for the purpose of installing 4 new light poles, numbers 36-2A, 36-3, 36-4, 36-5, Fowler Street, Maynard, as more fully set forth on the plans dated March 25, 2015. You have a second?
Second?
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Real quick, how long ago was this brought up to us, or to the board in general? Was this like a couple years ago, a year ago, just newly
To
presented?
which board? This board?
This board.
It's never come before this board before.
Okay, so last
Last meeting.
was the first time?
Yep.
Kevin, or Chris?
You good?
David?
No.
Jason? All right. I'm good too. I'll move the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Got 4-1. Gavin opposed, and the motion passes. All right. This hearing is, I'll take a motion to close the hearing. Do we have
So moved.
a motion? All in favor? All right, this hearing is closed. Thank you very much. Now, we got some stuff to sign on that, right?
Yes, please.
Legal. 3 pages, signatures.
Print March 31st minutes, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
And so next up on the agenda is a long-awaited presentation from Saracen Properties. And
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know, I see a couple of, certainly several familiar faces, so I think I'm going to turn it over to Jill Minkin and Henry, just Henry. Okay, Henry St. Hilaire is the Director of Construction for Saracen Properties, and he's going to lead the presentation.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I'd first like to say thank you to everyone for this opportunity. Town Administrator Sweet, Assistant Town Administrator Andrew, and Chairman of the Board, and all members of the Board of Selectmen. My name is Henry St. Hilaire. I am the Director of Development and Construction for Saracen Properties. And Saracen and its partner, the Artemis Group out of Washington, D.C., are the current owners of the property. The Saracen partnership that owns this entity with Artemis is called AS Clock Tower Owner LLC, for the record. Saracen Properties is a family-owned business. It's been in operation since the late 1960s. Was started by Dominic Saraceno. Their specialty, especially in recent years, has been in the repositioning of tired assets. Some of the projects that we've done are just in Waltham are a 25-acre parcel that was previously owned by Raytheon. It was its headquarters. We've converted that to just short of 500,000 square feet of office space. A couple of other projects in the Boston area of note, 2 Oliver Street, and 1 Washington Mall were projects that we developed, turned around, and are very proud of. So with that, I don't want to waste a lot of time here. I'd like to say that we have worked very hard to put together a team that would be assembling this package tonight and showing you our vision. The team is made up first of the Saracen Group here. We have Ted Saraceno, who is the current owner and is the son of the founder. We have Jill Minkin, who is vice president in charge of strategic planning and business development and other things. Carrie Tarpinian does our leasing. Wes Gray, who's actually a member of not the Artemis Group, but a consultant of Artemis Group. And we're all here tonight to answer any questions that you have. First thing we did when we purchased the mill, and we've owned it now since March 26th, is to hire Margulies and Peruzzi architects. We hired them because we felt that they were very creative. They've worked on similar type projects, and we were very excited when they gave us the presentation. So here from Margulies and Peruzzi is Paul McIntyre and Mark Margulies, and they'll be speaking to you shortly. Right now, I'd like to hand this over to Jill Minkin, who will probably give you a little bit about our repositioning effort and our rebranding effort. Jill?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. We're really, really excited about this project, and when it came time to really think about how we see this project going forward in the future, we thought about the physical attributes, but we also thought about how the property is positioned in terms of its identity. And so this evening, I wanted to talk a little bit about the history. As you can see, we've gone through a couple of different sort of variations of the theme, if you will, from the Assabet Woolen Mill to digital to the Clock Tower Place days. And when we really thought about it, we wanted to rebrand the property and rename it to give it an identity that spoke more to its place in town and it being a part of town as opposed to sort of a separate entity, which Clock Tower Place sort of indicated. So our new name is Mill and Main. We're really excited about this new branding and our new name. We're giving it a younger, more appealing color palette and theme. And we're really hoping that we can create not only a physical destination, but a great sensibility about this property that people can be really proud of. We not only want to make it great for our tenants and the town of Maynard, but we want to create a destination that people from surrounding communities want to come to and enjoy as well. So as part of our rebranding, we are also looking towards a couple of themes, including collaboration and innovation. And we're really proud and excited to be here tonight, especially because one of the elements of collaboration that we are really excited about is working with the town. and collaborating with you guys to really bring this property to its highest and best use. So here are just a couple of slides that just show kind of some of the ideas we put together. And I also just want to thank Rob and Brian from Neoscape, who are actually here today. They are also part of our team who have been doing a great job in terms of coming up with positioning statements and really thinking hard about the end users of this property and making it really enticing and exciting for them too. So Mill and Main is a dynamic venture envisioned by Saracen Properties to foster entrepreneurial drive, creative pursuits, and community ties. 1.1 million square feet of office space, features sprawling flexible layouts with 16-foot ceilings. Eclectic galleries and boutiques are complemented by landscaped gardens, and quaint artisanal venues overlook a charming riverside boardwalk and pedestrian plaza. A 50-acre campus just 25 miles east of Boston, Mill and Main is a collaborative catalyst for growth destined to resonate for generations to come. We really love the history of Maynard and think that it's great and definitely something that should be revered and celebrated. So along with bringing the property into the modern era, we really want to celebrate those elements too. And as Mark goes through his presentation, you'll see that the changes we're making will only make this property even better. We're not detracting or subtracting from it. We also think that these buildings have a lot going for them and they're gorgeous. And properties like this don't really exist in Greater Boston at large. So we want to remind people that there's something really fun, interesting, creative, cool, different happening here. The town of Maynard itself is very culturally diverse. There's a great vibe going on here. And our hope is that with these physical changes and also the changes in the branding, we really want to just amplify what's already happening here and make it even better. So we see this place as 1.1 million square feet of pure potential. We encourage you to go check out our website. We've spent the last few weeks creating a landing page, and we are going to be adding additional content to it. So please check back frequently as content is added. There's the address for you. And that is a live site, so you can go there right now and take a look. And I also encourage you to take a look at it on a website or a computer or a tablet, because there's kind of a cool tool that you can use to swish the furniture and contents back and forth. So again, we're thinking creatively and really about the end user, the millennials and the people that hire them. So welcome to Mill and Main. And without further ado, I'd like to turn the mic over to Mark Margulies from Margulies and Peruzzi, who can walk you through the actual physical changes, which I'm sure you're even more excited to hear about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so the board's aware, you have that as a PDF.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wouldn't come up at home, but it came up here.
Okay.
We're all on the website now playing.
Yeah.
You guys all have iPads up there?
Building my office as we speak.
Great. Well, thank you very much for having us. We're very excited to be here. Paul and I have been working on this since we were invited out by the Saracen Group when the snow was about as deep as it ever got, and the icicles were attached solidly to all corners of the building. And I actually have done design in the mill buildings over the years for one tenant or another. And of all the times that I've been here, to be honest, and I didn't actually realize what a wonderful, wonderful asset the mill pond is. And when Paul and I came out, I had forgotten. We were wandering around, and you can wander around for quite a while before you even realize there's water on the other side. And as we got into that, the study of the property, we realized that there are some really, really wonderful opportunities here. And they have to do with what Jill was describing, which is the integration of the mill into Maynard and vice versa. And we think that while you can do that culturally and programmatically, there's some things that we can do that are physical that are really going to help make that happen well. So one of the early things that we did was to come up with this diagram, it's a really long way for you guys to see, and I'm sorry, but you can see it on the website and get a better feel for it.
You can see it on our iPad.
Okay. Oh,
We're good.
Okay, great. So one of the first things we did was to say, how do we introduce some green space into a group of buildings that has a really lot of asphalt on the ground? And we realized that if you have that as a concept, if you have the idea of more green space and less hardscape, there's some buildings in the way. There's some small buildings that prevent you from creating outdoor spaces and creating nice courtyards, and that prevent you from achieving the other thing that we thought which was really important, which is a connection across the site to develop a clear path from the opposite side of the mill pond, from where there's a lot of parking, to the town itself. And when you start to think about the idea of having sort of a north-south connection from the opposite side of the mill pond, and you think about people crossing over from the parking and coming into the mill area and into the town, you start to say, wow, wouldn't it be great if the pond itself was more of a front yard than a backyard? And so we started to think about the wonderful asset that is, what a pretty little body of water it is, and why not ring it with activity and cut across it and develop the ability for everyone to enjoy it and enjoy the views. So this is the big concept that we had right from the beginning. And so we moved from that to creating a series of outdoor rooms and transitions from one outdoor room to the next, each of which ends up being a really nice experience. And so you have these outdoor rooms that have landscaping, and they have places for people to sit, and they start to be, so then you say, well, how do you enliven them? How do you make them nice places? And the way you do that is you ring them with activity. So as we get into, this is a large scale picture, but as you get into the more detail of it, you realize that if you take down 3 small buildings of no historic consequence, very small ones, it allows you to go from the inability to see the mill pond from the center of Maynard to a tremendous kind of transparency across, so that you can actually be on Florida Street and see the pond. So this is another aerial, and you can see from this sort of that the idea is to ring the pond with a boardwalk that would allow activities, seating, and or just walking from one place to another in a way that you can enjoy the water feature. This view is, we've named all these areas so that we can refer to them, but this is the view on the north side of Building 3, which we call the street. Currently, it's all paved. There are a whole bunch of cars that are sort of parked there willy-nilly. And the idea here is to have a very clearly defined roadway, because you need it for fire access and for general accessibility, but to have both landscaping and a boardwalk because of the topography, right? We need to be able to walk straight out from Building 3, so that people, whether they have retail there or whether they have conference facilities where people want to be able to spill out, can sit on the side of the street and be able to enjoy the outdoors. On the left-hand side of this image, There's another, this is the view currently basically from Florida Street, I guess, if you're standing there, right? And if this works right, you'll see the transition that this is what happens when you take down some of the overgrown shrubbery and you take out two of the buildings that are blocking the view. We end up having a really dynamic outdoor space where you can come and go readily and from the center of Mill and Main, and also enjoy views out to the Mill Pond. This next view is basically looking from the town into the mill area, and the transition will give you an idea of what happens when you are able to see all the way into the street, which is otherwise completely hidden from any place in town. What we want to do is to try to make the transition from the sidewalk into these outdoor spaces open, welcoming. Currently, you know, there's a wrought iron fence that cuts across there. We want to open that up, have broad staircases that open into the courtyard, very clear views into where the entrances are to the buildings, new entrances to the buildings, new lobbies, new lighting, and signage, and a real sense of energy and dynamism. This is a view looking toward, this is the one view that we have that shows the building on the left, which is called the annex. And when that building comes down, you can see all the way into the inside of the complex. This is a view back toward town. And you can see that we're really opening it up broadly so that the distinction between what happens in the mill and what happens in the town starts to disappear, and we end up having a much, much more dynamic relationship physically. Very easy for people to walk in. And here, this is a view of the street. We're talking about fixing up the bridges, which are currently completely enclosed, to making them glass and open and really nice features that connect the buildings. This shows the walkway along the side of the street where we have retail or conference facilities opening out onto the boardwalk, all of which is handicap accessible. We've also, this is the building, small building that currently connects 1 and 3, right? And when we take that building down, we end up with what we call the Pond Plaza. And, you know, if all things go well, we see this as an opportunity for a really nice water feature in the middle of the pond. I can imagine, obviously, with your approval, at some points, the collective decision that it would be wonderful to have some sort of events, whether it's kayaks or, you know, miniature sailboat races or music or any of that kind of stuff happening, because part of the plan is also to surround the parking lots, which currently are just asphalt to pond, instead with greenery and a walking pathway that goes along the perimeter of this. So the pond becomes encircled by either greenery or activity from the buildings. And we've also talked about the idea of cutting through the middle of Building 3 so that if there's an evening activity, or if there is inclement weather that people want to walk through from the boardwalk right through Building 3, they can do so without necessarily having to worry about penetrating security. Or this will be an open walkway through the buildings to allow people to go from one part of the site to another. We have a few other images of what the boardwalk around the pond would look like. This is on the side of Building 3. This is the walkway that connects the southern parking lot and Building 5 across the pond, which would be just a spectacular little walkway that connects the two buildings. And currently, you just can't get there. I mean, you could swim, but you can't really get from one side of the site to the other. And this will be a wonderful way to walk across and experience the the views. This is on the edge of Building 5. There's currently a plan to have a brew pub, so there'd be some, the possibility of outside dining there, looking out at the water. And the plan is to have new and upgraded entrances for Building 5 and also for Building 1. This is currently the entrance that is not handicap accessible. With the new connection to the boardwalk, we end up with accessibility into Building 1 and a much more elegant incorporation of what's actually their loading dock. This is the currently the entrance to the cafeteria, which is trucks and hardscape and sort of a leftover space. As we take down one of the buildings there that's really quite small, we end up with this wonderful courtyard that would be a great location conceivably for the farmer's market or any of those other kinds of activities, because it's large and it's accessible to the public. This is the view out, again, toward Main Street, just directly adjacent to that. And then on the corner of the property, right there where the river runs under the bridge, there's this terrific Building 8 that is vastly underutilized because of its really prominent and wonderful location. And we see this as a great opportunity for the conversion to a great restaurant location with outside dining right there on the Assabet in a way that could be just a fabulous amenity to town. And instead of it, and our plans are to work with the way the railing and the walkways and all that kind of staircases are currently configured to make it much more a part of town instead of a building on the other side of where town isn't anymore. So that's our big picture vision for Millen, Maine.
All right. Well, you had me at the fountain, but. So I'd be interested to hear from the board members, any comments or thoughts. Tim, you want to lead off?
Very excited for the kickoff of this project. I mean, I've been in town for so long. It's great to see something done, something different. It's what we're hoping for. So thank you.
Thank you. We're very excited too.
Chris?
Same, just looking forward to see what happens.
What do you got, David?
Yeah, I'm tremendously excited as well. I think it's, first off, thank you for the graphics that help to visualize some of this stuff. I don't know if it would be possible
That's Paul. That's Paul.
without it, so thank you for that. Question, are there environmental concerns relative to, like, the pond itself and, you know, the cleaning up the pond and whatever? Because, you know, so you mentioned swimming across it. I don't know if anybody
No, I wasn't treating
would want to do that. Is there a plan to clean that up? Is that part of the?
I think it's, I'd like to say that we're in the early stages of doing the technical analysis of what has to happen. We know what we'd like to achieve. What the best way is to do that technically is still something that we're exploring. We have to be sensitive to the environmental issues, and there obviously are many. And there will be different ways of going about it that are more or less complicated. I think the general thought, if my understanding is clear, is that there is some stuff in there that's easy to get out of there and make it look better. I don't think there is currently an intent to mess with the bottom very much, and there are probably a lot of reasons not to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The other question, if I may, Main Street that you have, or whatever it would be called, I would assume not Main Street since we already have one. Would that be a thoroughfare, an actual road in use, or do you envision that just access for trucks to bring in stuff for the businesses that are there, or do you expect it to be actually used by residents and parking there and going into the businesses that might be there?
It's some combination. The access to the parking lot obviously comes in further to the west. You need to be able to drive through all parts of the property for for security and for fire and so forth. So they will be usable, and I think pretty much all good urban design principles over the years have proven that you want to allow a certain amount of vehicular access for convenience, for accessibility, and to keep it somewhat lively, because people need to be able to get ready access. It gets, the far end of what we're calling the street gets very narrow. So I don't see this as having a ton of traffic going through it.
Okay.
But it is important to articulate it, physically articulate it as a street with a curb, with a definition to what's on and off the street, and with parallel parking as opposed to, head in.
Yep. Okay. I think those are the questions I have, but again, thank you very much for the presentation. I think it's, as I say, really exciting, so I'm looking forward to the process moving forward. And all of this is already properly zoned. There doesn't have to be any zoning changes as a result of any of this. Is that accurate?
Not 100% accurate. Like, there's still some zoning items, and I know Henry and Bill met recently last week to review some of the requirements there. We may need to come back for some changes, right?
We may come back for some minor changes that we see are potential problems, but for the most part, most of this is already ready to go by right.
Yeah.
Right.
Most of it was when the October 2011 zoning changes.
That's what I figured, but.
But there might be some small things that they may be looking to change, but.
Once the residents start to see this, and in general, I think that the support and enthusiasm is going to grow, so, thank you.
Jason?
Thank you for the presentation. No comments.
Well, David took my zoning question, but I do have one question. I'd ask it only because it's going to come up at the June 11th presentation when you do this, and this is probably a question more to Henry than you guys. And the question is simply open table. What's the response on that?
Well, I think we've been on record already, and I'm not sure that, that I have anything new to tell you. We want to do some great things for this project and this site. And in order to do that, we need to make changes. And some of the things that existed for years, I know, no longer make sense. And so we've had to make some changes, and we're not happy that, some people get hurt in the process, but it's progress, and we think that the ultimate result of what we're doing is a greater good, and we're hoping that that everybody understands that it's not something we really wanted to do but had to do.
All right, fair enough. Another question: do you want to maybe open it up to questions from the audience, or you want to wait till June 11 to do that?
I think we're good with that.
Okay. So, anybody in the audience with questions or comments? One in the back?
Terrence Dunn, a couple questions. Actually very excited about the presentation, very excited about the potential for changing up the mill, love the name, very modern. Two questions. I saw some on one of the drawings, shielding of the parking garage. I'm wondering what the status is of that structure. What's also the status of the rest of the parking that's attached to the actual facility right now? And the second question, security. What are we talking about from a security standpoint? If we're opening access to this facility to the public, you're basically putting, another burden on the actual police force, right? So is there a plan for private security to actually augment some of that as well? Thank you.
Okay. Well, with respect to the security question, we do have on-site security currently, 24 hours a day, and I think that opening up the site actually makes it easier to secure, easier to manage the oversight of the property. As far as the parking garage structure, I believe those are panels that would be attached to the exterior of the existing structure. So we're not talking about removing it or changing anything major to the structure, just adding some cladding to it. And I'm not sure I understand the other question about the other parking. There is other parking throughout the site. There will continue
Any
to-
potential changes, taking back any of the parking spaces, making some of it, you know, different for a different function? I know on the Percival side or the Sudbury side street, the church actually uses quite a bit of that parking on Sunday morning. Any way that that will be impacted as well? I'm just, you know, not complaining, just asking.
To be honest with you, I had not known that the church was using the parking, but
I would say the church wasn't, but the people who go to church are.
yeah, obviously. Sure, I mean, Sunday use of the parking lot is not going to interfere certainly with what we're doing. If we have lots of tenants and we get lots of people coming to work here, obviously the parking lot will be a lot more full than it is today, but other than that, we see no change. I will say that there is a plan down the road to look at a residential component to this master plan that we are currently looking at for the upper Sudbury lot. And that, at this point, is still in preliminary discussion.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions from those in attendance?
I'm Carol Leary. I'm on the Aspet River Rail Trail Board of Directors, and I just wondered, did you have a vision for kind of including that in the marketing as an advantage, or how it integrates in with the plans?
I'm very familiar with the plan. We saw it at our office. Get the engineer that was in our office to explain it. And Linda, the planning director. Was
Yeah,
there.
Becky from GPI, the design engineer, as well as our staff.
Very excited about it, and certainly are going to include it in marketing. I know Jill was looking at it as well.
When do you expect construction to start in the area that's currently the cafeteria?
We're still working out what is going to be done first, and I know I've got a meeting with Margulies next week to start looking at, you know, exactly what happens first and how. I know that there are certain areas that we will probably concentrate on, things like the entrance to Building 2 and Building 12. Building 12 currently doesn't have an elevator, so one of the things that we might want to do is develop that as part of the first piece of this, and then looking around at the courtyard and trying to establish the courtyard that would tie into the cafe space that you're talking about. So that would probably be pretty early on.
Which will include the demolition of that.
Yeah,
So
the
that's
demolition of
that's
two
your
buildings, which is Building 10 and the Building 2 Annex, if you know what those are. We're really trying to get that component started this year. It's all a function of how fast we can go, you know, get designs and get everything approved locally here, and get a contractor on board.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice. Anything else, Vic?
I would wonder about historical commission, number one. Number two, most of the work that's going to be done, and I think the plan is absolutely beautiful, will have to come under the Wetlands Protection Act, Conservation Commission, River Protection Act. And the concept of having the walkway is something that was proposed to Clock Tower Place a number of years ago, and they entertained it for a while and dropped it. I don't know whether it was a case of money or what, but they made a couple of bad decisions. For instance, when they decided to stop generating their own electricity, and they were advised at that time that it was a bad decision, and then a year or two later they changed their mind and wanted to get back on. And when you start dealing with the federal agencies down in DC, namely FERC, and I'm sure you people have done that because the building you're talking about in Waltham, I believe, is on the Charles River. The old Raytheon plant?
Correct. Well,
And of
adjacent
course,
to.
in this day and age now, we've got to the point where regulations are very onerous, and they kill you, and you have a good concept, and because of certain regulations, you're not able to carry it out.
Right.
I personally, I haven't lived here all my life yet, but I'm working on it. I think your concept is absolutely beautiful, because what you're actually doing is, you're tying that complex into the lifeblood of the town. It's not an isolated enclave anymore with what you're proposing. So I wish you all the luck in the world. I hope you got enough money to do it all.
Come on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Diane? Go ahead.
I'm Barbara Blankenship, lived in Maynard for 12 years, and I think that whole time period, I've waited for something like this to come along, so I'm really excited about it. But I'm also operations manager and kitchen manager of what used to be our kitchen at Open Table. And I just have to say that, you know, in my excitement to have you here, I'm also, you know, a little disappointed because we'd like to have the opportunity to stay at the mill longer. And if you can allow us to stay there as much as through the construction, as much as possible, that would be fantastic. As we try to find another location. I'm shaking. But yeah, don't think that we're not excited, and don't think that we're not supporting you. And
we understand.
We hope that you could just help us out and get us through this difficult time also.
We understand. As you know, there's some structural issues that are in the way, and be happy to try to work them out with you, but I'm not sure that there's a reasonable solution.
Okay, anything further? All right, well, I guess, thank you very much for the great ideas, and Mill and Main it is, no more.
Can we start calling it Mill and Main like now?
Absolutely.
I know, but you know, I haven't seen a sign out.
We're going to get to it right away.
All right, excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And we'll see you
Sir.
folks June 11th at the library.
Sir, one point for you, just for when.
Okay. And I'll bring the
Thank you. Good, yeah, thank you.
It's a water theme.
Hey, don't steal our stuff.
Thank you.
You have it. Huh? You have it.
Got it already?
You want more paperwork.
Huh?
You just want more paperwork.
Does anybody want you to look at it?
If not, we'll keep them.
Show it to people this way. Started off well. It's really good
Open table.
Heading back tomorrow?
No, I'm here.
I thought I saw you walking on Main Street. You were in Korea.
So, a lot to do.
Yeah.
We'll stay.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thanks, Wes. Yep, appreciate it. Travels from DC every week. For like a week, goes back for like a couple days after a week.
Put them all there, kills downtown.
Oh, yeah.
They were around for years and years, so.
Thanks, Gary.
I can look at it.
Second time.
Yeah. Out in town.
Gary gave him one.
Digital.
All
about the digital piece, but I get it. You know,
It's tough for you to watch.
One of those mills from Bill and May.
I like to touch stuff.
It's all right.
Got cool in here now.
Yeah.
Everyone's gone.
Everyone's gone.
All right.
Kevin gets the floor and everyone's gone.
Well, that was fun. But now for a change of pace, we go to item number 8, which is our fiscal 2014 audit report.
Positive, Dick.
And we have several things that they give us, 2 or 3 reports, and they're all very exciting stuff and actually very fascinating reading about debt service and bonding and all sorts of good stuff. But typically we focus on the management letter, and that has some operational level audit recommendations. And I'd like to just start looking at page 9 and 10 of the management letter for 2014. And that goes over the recommendations from the prior year. And as far as I can tell, it looks like we did what we were supposed to on most of the prior year stuff, but I note that under the school operations, they're getting slapped on the wrist for a redundant data entry system. So Kevin, you got anything updating on that? Is that gonna just be something we read every year? Or
Yeah, I hope that we can get to a point in time where we're utilizing a single financial software system. When we switched over to SoftWrite, there was a presentation that was made to the school committee as well as the school superintendent and business manager. Yeah, I think at this point, the school's thoughts initially were they were anticipating sometime in the near future or in the future the retirement of their business administrator, and sort of for the tail end of his status with the community, they weren't interested in switching over to a system. There's also a financial consideration. There would be a cost for conversion, but it's certainly from a financial security and oversight, it makes a lot of sense. There's town accounts, the chart of accounts are different. They don't match the chart of accounts for the schools. There's dual entry process where it gets entered into their system, as well as then comes over to the accounting office, and it's dual entry there. But I think also, to be fair on part of their end too, is the system that the school is utilizing has sort of a multi-use system in the sense they utilize that for personnel tracking as well as some HR components that are part of that system that a financial system doesn't offer them. But I don't see that as it's a small barrier that we could easily address. And again, I think perhaps as the financial leadership team there changes over and the mindset, we will see that there. Again, there needs to be. I'm not sure what they were quoted in the proposal for the cost, but it's certainly significant as well. We were trying to build a patch with our existing financial software system, a patch where they could enter it into their system. It's like a 3-letter acronym, and IM something. But anyway, their system, we were trying to create a patch that it could bridge over to ours, but we just haven't been able to get there with it. They've been looking at it, but there's still no solution around the dual entry at this point.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The cost to do the switchover, is that plugged into the capital needs list somewhere?
I don't think they have.
Or is that even
on
a
here.
capital thing?
Yeah, it would be. It's really, the big part of it, I don't know what they pay annually for a maintenance cost, that's budgeted item, but it is a capital piece in the sense of implementation and the software purchase piece of it. Certainly, it's well over $10,000, and the lifespan of it will be there. So the actual annual maintenance fee is something they would budget for, but they would need that one-time hit for actual, which is similar to how the town did it. The town originally negotiated with SoftWrite to allow us, because we didn't have the money, to allow us to do it over a 3-year phase thing. They agreed to do that for us, but we ended up paying it, and then we ended up having some additional funds that we were able to deal with it with. I think we did it with an overlay release that covered our outstanding balance. So they're willing to work with the community to get it done, but it really would be one-time money that we should use for the implementation and purchase piece.
Gotcha. Okay. So does anybody else have any questions on the status of prior year findings and recommendations?
Just to confirm, we did, and my recollection is that we did, but just to confirm, in the latest golf course contract, we added in some language about periodic audits that
Yes,
are, yeah.
absolutely. We also did an audit that's actually required by the Inspector General's office every 3 years on these third-party units. So we did complete one of those at the end of the 3-year as well for them. But there is language in the contract, and it's also on the town accountant's radar and the facilities manager's radar, who's kind of the day-to-day folks that they're dealing with them. But the town accountant is also has it in his scheduling to do the actual review as well.
Okay. So, moving on to findings and recommendations on page 7 and page 8 for current year, or current as of close of fiscal 14. They have 3 topics: need for risk assessment, selectmen approval of warrants, and tailings. Not that I understand what tailings is, but I take note of the word selectmen, and apparently we're being taken to task for, what are we being taken to task for? Not looking at what we're signing?
Yeah, the current practice that we've been doing is sufficient. We've run that by the auditors, and they're okay with what the slight change we've made with providing. Before, it was just a blanket email, approve the vendor warrant. If you recall, we've been doing it now almost a year, where we actually now list in the amounts and et cetera. So we changed that and reviewed it with them, and they were good with it. They were comfortable with that.
All right. And,
yeah, the big thing is we retain the response back from, when the selectmen say approved. Those 3 will actually go with it, so it's filed with every hard copy. That basically affirms as opposed to.
That's why it's important we respond.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Okay. So any chance on the other 2 items? We've already done them?
Yeah, we have.
Next.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, overall, the findings, I mean, there was no real material weaknesses of any significance. I've never seen an audit that didn't come up with something. That, they most of the time, as long as it's, somewhat, as long as it's items that aren't of significant or material weakness, a lot of times it's something like you should be signing these forms and you're not type of example. Those are on every annual, but there's anything that's been addressed in this has already been resolved.
Okay. Any other questions from the board about the findings and recommendation items? All right. I have one question about the management letter on page 6, the reference to the PEG Access Fund.
Yeah, so that's something that's come up new. Well, we have to do it in the fall special town meetings, do an article that will allow for the current use of those funds within that reserve for appropriation funds. All it is it's a template article that actually the auditors are going to provide us the language. And it's not just Maynard, it's a new thing that's gone in that all the communities in Massachusetts will have to comply with under the Department of Revenue changes. So we'll have to do it ideally at a fall special town meeting, and we'll be in compliance, and we can continue along that way with that PEG money.
Gotcha. And I guess my question is probably not actually related to the audit and the article and the process, but I forget, didn't we talk about looking into using PEG funds to pay benefits on some salary, some employees?
Yeah, and we have.
Did we do anything with that?
Yeah, we did.
Find out
We
anything?
included it for FY15 and moving forward. I would anticipate the same. So WAVM, the PEG funds have paid for the director, as well as I think there's 2 kind of para assistants that are in there that have paid for those wages. This year was because of that. Discussion was the first year that we had them put the request in to be inclusive of all of the benefits for the true cost of that position. So we have accounted for that So it went up from 80-something to a little over 100. But yeah, that's all captured now.
Gotcha. All right. Any of the board members have any other questions or comments about the management letter?
Speaking of the PEG access, if I read it correctly, they're recommending that we have a town meeting article regarding transfer of the funds of some, or at least approval of having the funds in a particular pot.
Correct. That's exactly it.
That's it.
And if it's not done by, I don't know, if it's July 1st of 2016, or it's some.
As long as we have it earmarked for the next
Correct, yeah,
town meeting.
some ways out, without having that town meeting approval.
Close of 16.
What is it?
Close of fiscal 16.
Close of 16, yeah, so, yeah, June 30. What ends up happening is, if we don't have that adoption, it ends up all going into the general funds. You can't have that separate.
Is that as far as you know, is that a one-time?
Yes, it's a one-time authorization.
Article, okay.
Yeah,
Is it a bad thing if it went into general fund?
yeah,
It limits our ability to use it for certain things, wouldn't that?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there's there's a lot that's kind of tied up in that. There's capital money, there's ongoing maintenance money, there's money coming in and there's money going out, but, it meets the licensing agreement, but there's, yeah, I don't know, we don't want to go down there.
Just curious, were we aware of the need for that without the audit, or was the audit what?
It kind of came up at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of got wind that it was coming, and then it had happened and the auditors, formalized it. Yeah.
Make sure it's highlighted on your calendar so you
Yeah,
don't.
no, we have it. Mike Guzzo and I have talked about it in depth.
Probably already write up the
Yeah.
article for the next.
Yeah, we actually, the auditors were here for a retirement board thing, and we met with them last week and asked them to provide us the language for it, so we'll have it as a
Good. All right.
placeholder.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right, any other questions on the management letter? Any other questions on all the other exciting audit documents?
Did you get a hard copy, please?
Got a hard copy.
We got hard copies.
We all got a hard copy
electronic
this time.
copies, we got email, we got Dropbox.
We did on a couple plane trips, and they come back with a bunch of questions next time.
All right, well, very good. Can't wait for the new one, next one.
Yeah.
Why does it take 12 months, I forget?
Yeah. Just how it is.
It always does, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
They usually have it presented for May, but actually, this auditor has been better. They pretty much have it, the management letter and everything done by February, March. The prior auditors were, we were in May still asking for it, so we've kind of always had it for a May timeframe, but we could make it a little earlier.
Yeah. That's okay, it's better than it has been.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I was used to July and August.
These guys have been good.
Gotcha. All right. Up next is agenda item number 9, 129 Parker Street, next steps. And we've talked about this some, but we're going to have to actually decide what to do about it. We've had a presentation and a request to work with the developer on getting something to happen there, and we hired a consultant to do a fiscal analysis, and that indicated very high likelihood that it would be revenue positive to the town, but we still have to decide whether and how we want to proceed. And what I want to do tonight is to first get a couple things from the board members. One is your initial thoughts on the plan that was presented to us in March, and also your thoughts on whether and how to proceed. And I'm going to start off. I got a few notes, if you just bear with me. I'm going to summarize a little bit in the past, and then talk about my thoughts on what was presented in March, and then a suggestion or two about where we go from here. But basically, 129 Parker Street has been with us a long time. 10 years ago, we spent a couple of years working on new zoning and development agreements, concept plans, town meeting votes, planning board approvals. And we actually did come up with a plan for 175,000 square feet of retail and 100 dwelling units and 200 bedrooms and reuse of one of the existing office buildings. But as we all know, nothing's happened, and nothing happened since then for several reasons. The first is probably just because stuff happens, and that project kind of missed the economic development cycle, and the property owner went bankrupt. Another problem that happened was we kind of made a mistake in doing our work, and we made all the zoning specific for John Walter's specific proposal, and that left it not very adaptable to other ideas. And then the other thing we did was, when we did try out a new plan a couple years ago, we kind of rushed it, left too many questions unanswered, and town meeting let us all know that. But now, in March, we have the new proposal and the request to try again. This time they're asking for something like 80,000 square feet of office, 230,000 square feet of retail, including that fabled supermarket. They're asking for an independent living complex for seniors. And they're asking for a 40B residential development of 200 dwelling units and totaling 325 bedrooms, including 25% affordables. So I want to start off with my impressions of the proposed uses. The independent living thing, I'm fine with it. My only thought is that we need to be careful with the rezoning that we don't restrict ourselves too much. You know, this is called independent living, and, you know, if we do the zoning too precisely and it morphs to an assisted living, you know, we might trip ourselves up. So we got to be a little careful about trying to parse all these zoning definitions. As far as the commercial goes, you know, the 300-something thousand square feet of commercial, the financial report showed it was a revenue generator. And it looks good to me. I do need a little help understanding what impact it might have on the downtown. But I think the big gorilla is traffic related to that commercial. And but I hope that if we use all the previous work and the proposed mitigation projects considered for earlier versions of the plan, I think that's a good starting point to get to a conclusion. I mean, we all know there's going to be traffic. I think the issue is just making sure there's not going to be traffic jams on Saturday and Sunday, and making sure some of the neighborhoods aren't inundated with cut-through traffic 24 hours a day. To me, the housing seems to be the biggest obstacle to a quick resolution. I mean, right now, we currently allow 100 dwelling units and 200 bedrooms. They're asking for 200 dwelling units. 325 bedrooms. Now, for one, that 200 dwelling unit number can be kind of scary to some people, because it means, you know, upwards of 400 new residents coming to town. And that's a big number for Maynard. I checked it out, and 45 years ago, in 1970, Maynard had 9,700 residents. Now it has 10,100. So in 45 years, we increased 400 residents. This project would do that in 1 year. But, you know, I don't know that I have a problem with there being more people who want to live in Maynard. I think the only issue I have is doing the housing right. For one, I don't think doing it as a 40B project is going to help anybody. It's not going to help the town. It's not going to help the developer. I mean, really, it comes down to why do we want to add a time-consuming and complex state process to our own time-consuming and complex local process. It just doesn't seem worth it. Now, 40B does get affordable housing, and affordable housing is good, but we can do it without a 40B process. And one thing I'm thinking of is, you know, instead of the 25% affordable housing that the 40B regs require, I'm good with 10%. That's always been our target. for projects. And actually, in my mind, the 10% doesn't even have to be at 129 Parker Street. It could be provided somewhere else by the project. It could be provided as contributions to the town housing fund, so Maynard could decide where and when to do the affordable housing. That's all good with me. The other issue I got with housing is the number of units and the number of bedrooms. Not only can the 200 units be a somewhat scary number to some people, but the financial analysis shows that there's little or no financial benefit from this type of rental housing. One problem is the 40B requirement for 3-bedroom apartments. No one really wants the 3-bedroom apartments, not us, not the developer, but that's a state rule if you go by the 40B stuff. And, you know, if we don't use the 40B process, then the 3 bedrooms can go away. And one thing I've been thinking about is, you know, if we just drop the 23 bedrooms from the proposal and keep the 180 other housing units, I think we're really close to being done. I mean, the lower number of units and the 60 fewer bedrooms, I mean, not only does that improve our net revenue, and probably it would improve our net revenue by upwards of $100,000, but I think the lower number of bedrooms will get the votes at town meeting, because this is going to need rezoning, and it's going to need 2/3 votes at town meeting. So that's something to keep in mind. So, summarizing my initial impressions on the proposal, I'm good with the independent living. I'm not quite comfortable yet with the traffic impact of the commercial, but I'm pretty good on it. I think the 40B process is nothing anybody wants, and I think it's best to have fewer dwelling units, but make more of them market rate units. As far as next steps, if we want to do this and move forward on this, and I do, it's going to take a lot of effort and money to do it right. We need new zoning. We got to amend the development agreement. We need new concept plans. We got to go to town meeting a couple times. And before we can even consider, you know, moving towards town meeting, there's lots of questions that remain and we need to be answered. Now, we're lucky. We got a very good special counsel, and we got a financial expert that can help us answer some of those questions. We just have to make sure we use them effectively to make sure we arrive at what's best for Maynard. And I think our special counsel is going to have to help us figure out the exact details of moving forward. I don't know exactly what the best plan of action is, but I do know that it's not trying to squeeze the 129 project discussion into a Board of Selectmen agenda full of utility pole hearings and cemetery deeds twice a month. I think to do it right, we have to be able to act in a timely manner, and we have to be able to focus on the 129 project. So I'm suggesting that the Board of Selectmen set up a special subcommittee to help move the project forward. That way, the board will be able to meet when necessary, maybe on the developer's schedule instead of our schedule, and can give the project the attention it deserves. So, in sum, I think it's going to be a tough slog, but I think in the end it's going to be worthwhile for the town to invest the time and the money. And but to do so, I think it starts with a subcommittee for the board, and the board meeting soon and often, because it's time to get to work. So that's what I got to say, and I'm going to open it up to the other members just for thoughts on impressions about the initial proposal and thoughts on whether and how to move forward. And Tim, I'll go to.
I'm going to defer for now.
All right, Chris?
I didn't know we could defer.
Yeah, he's a pretty clever guy. We have to come back, but we'll defer. In general, you.
In general, of course, you know, we want to move forward. In general, I'm okay with the plan of March, you know, the last thing we got from March 10th, the last presentation. I agree that we need to keep it separate, and it's a little more important than some of the, it's not more important to everybody, but more important to the town as a whole to give it the proper attention that the project deserves, and that's not going to happen in, the 20-minute allotted tonight or at other times. But all the things that you brought up are, issues that I'm sure that everyone up here would agree are important, and, things that the town needs to consider and the development needs to consider. The one exception I would take with your comments would be, I don't think we need a subcommittee. I think that this is a project of such importance that all 5 people ought to be involved every step of the way. I don't think a subcommittee is proper for a project of this size in the town of Maynard. It's too big for this town to not have the entire board be involved every step of the way.
Yeah, just to clarify, I kind of assumed all the board would attend all the meetings. I thought maybe the subcommittee is a little more flexible.
Not really a subcommittee.
Posting and stuff, but
I
in reaching quorums and things, but
yeah,
I'm glad to see that.
I just think that it's something that the five people that the town selected to sit here should all be involved in a project of this importance in every meeting.
Yep.
But that's,
cool.
It's just my opinion. I'd like to see where it goes, and since there is somebody from the developer here, maybe when we're done with our comments, we can hear from him on what he sees as their next steps, if that's possible. But, I want to see it move forward, and I think that, it's not comparing apples to apples when you compare the mill with this project, because the mill is already there, but I think that presentation that we saw earlier has to provide some level of, I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is, but it has to be kind of a push to, see this start moving, at least from their perspective, I would think. But I guess we can ask that question if the developer would like to speak when we're done.
Cool. David, first impressions?
Yeah, I concur with the large majority of the comments you made, if not all of them. I think that the big obstacle, as you indicated, is the number of residences. And I think we have to take note of, there was a whole process, something that you didn't mention in your commentary, was the whole process that we went through following the town meeting vote with the ad hoc committee. And there were lessons, or there were, I guess, pieces of information that came from them, from that group, that spent an inordinate amount of time trying to come up with an approach that would work for the community. And it was clear from those meetings that the numbers and the residences were a concern. That committee didn't come out with a specific number of units or bedrooms, but had a range. But it was evident in those meetings that if there is going to be a stumbling block at town meeting, it's the residences. And so I concur with the position that you have with the 25% affordable is more than what we really need. I am a proponent of affordable housing because it's the right thing to do. I've said it a number of times in the recent months. I don't think we need 25%. 10% would be nice. And as we talked about at with a recent proposal, the contribution to a housing trust fund that we have in town would also be beneficial to the community. So there are other ways to approach this rather than just having units defined in this particular project. I think we have to always keep in mind the impact on the downtown, the impact on the traffic that will come. I know that that's not what we're here to talk about now and whatever, but when people in the public begin to talk about this project, those are the things that come up. So we have to be cognizant of that and aware of it and prepared to answer questions at every stage of the process. So, I actually believe that a subcommittee may be an appropriate way just because of the flexibility that it provides, as you explained. I also applaud Chris's indication that he thinks everybody should be involved in the effort, and I absolutely agree that it's necessary because this board is the board that's going to amend the development agreement. It's not an issue that's going to go anywhere else but here. It's an agreement between the community, the town of Maynard, and the developer that can't be really resolved by any other than the 5 that will be sitting here at the time that it happens. So somehow we have to find a way to make it an efficient process that we can act quickly rather than having to wait for 2 weeks to make decisions that may apply. I also think, though, that we have to be, one of the lessons we should have learned is that we don't set our sights on a target date set by something other than when we as a community and we as a board and we as decision makers are prepared to move along, not somebody else. It should be our timetable and it should be the community's timetable. But most importantly, I think the other things I think we have to listen to also, and we'll get there, but I think the expert that we had in, when she brought her own opinions on the way she viewed the concept plan that was proposed and the fact that she was sort of, and again, we'll get to this, it's much further down the road, but she thought it was way too little green space. These are things that the community have been talking about, and these are things that she recognized as an outsider. But different topic, different part of the conversation, but eventually we'll get there. So to sum up my thoughts, I'm good. I really like the independent living. That was generated by community input, community thoughts at the visioning sessions that we had following town meeting. That's community input. That's the way that these processes, when it's something of this importance, I think that's the way it should work. And again, the real stickler for me right now, and I think for the number of people that I've spoken with, is the number of housing units. And I think that's something we can talk about, and I think that's a hurdle we can get over. So I'm confident that we can make this work and move forward.
Got any comments on next steps? You ready to meet tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock? Ready to go?
No, I'm ready to meet whenever we have to, but mornings are not good for me.
All right. Jason?
Well, I'm going to state the obvious, but I'd like to see the revised financial analysis.
You'll have that by the end of the week.
Okay. I mean, that to me is first step.
Yeah, we haven't received the revision yet from RKG. I reached out to her and she said plan to have it for the end of the week. So assuming by Friday, but I'll send that to the board as soon as I receive it.
Okay, thanks. In terms of what was presented, I think at this point we're still, lines on paper. We've seen various great presentations over the years, and we've never quite arrived. As far as some of the things that have come up, the independent living, I'll maintain that that's been something I've sort of chased for the last few years, both on planning and here. I'd definitely like to see some independent living. I'd also like to see some transitional. To Bill's point, we should not be so narrow-minded, but we should really do what zoning is intended to do, and that's to open up, not for 6 buildings with 100 square feet each. It's not intended for that. It's intended for uses so that someone can come in and sort of flourish under that. I think we need to let the zoning do its job when we get to that part. As far as commercial, commercial will have a very, it's going to generate traffic. There will be impacts. I think we have to move away from the thought that we're going to come up with a sweet spot where there's going to be no impacts. There will be impacts. Commercial will impact downtown. Commercial will create traffic. Commercial may not impact water and sewer. Residential will have impacts. They'll have good and bad. There'll be more people in town. There'll be more people to shop downtown. There'll be more people to shop on that site, but there'll be more cars coming on and off that site. there'll be water and sewer use. There'll be children going to our schools. Now, that may add children to our schools, which is, I think to echo, a member of the FinCom, that how can we have a school district that has such tiny numbers, and sometimes, at some points, dwindling numbers? What that, I guess, as far as some of those impacts, impacts can be mitigated to a degree, I guess. Water, sewer, traffic, that can be fixed. As far as the housing goes, I'll be honest, I think we really do need to start to talk to our experts and find out what's the number. We've had people bandy about numbers for the last 5-6 years now, as that 100's okay, but 105 will break the back of the town. I don't know what 100 units will do. I don't know that there's a lot of people here who know what 100 units will do versus what 200 units will do. I think, to Bill's point, that taking out 3 bedrooms will have probably a more beneficial effect, and I think, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, that was somewhat echoed in the financial analysis.
Yep.
I think we have some numbers there, but obviously we need to finish that process. Personally, I think I'd rather see more commercial space than to go crazy with housing units. At the same rate, we saw some market studies previously that had us having so much commercial space that we were pulling people from Framingham and Nashua, 2 huge shopping areas. It's not going to happen. We need to be realistic about it. I guess as far as whether or not we establish a subcommittee, I'll be honest, I'm sort of indifferent, I think, to Chris's point, that we're going to need to attend. If more than 3 of us are planning to attend, it's a posted meeting of the Board of Selectmen. There's no getting around it. We'll post 48 hours ahead of time. Next steps. I guess we've done a financial analysis that we're going to complete. We've seen a concept plan that has come back in from the developer. I'd be curious to know if, moving forward is on all parties. Obviously, we can meet, we can be more proactive about what the town is looking for and how we want to go about doing that. I think on the other side of that coin is, there needs to be some outreach to the community to determine, and again, I know that that's sort of a, it's been done again and again, but, when I say outreach, I mean communication. We need to get this information out to people. We need to get people, we need to a lot of this falls on us as the board. We need to sort of get people all pointing in a direction so that we can move this forward. Because if we walk into another town meeting like we've done in the past 2 years, we're going to be battling 50-50 again. And with the 70 people who show up, or 100 people that show up, and we're just not going to make progress. So I think, we really got to motivate people to be involved. I think that's it.
All right, thank you. Tim, you ready to
I would say we're all in agreement at this point, having heard everyone say their piece. First and foremost, I'm all for moving this forward. I believe if we really need to give this our undivided attention, we being the Board of Selectmen as a whole, and the administration and decision makers. And it's great we have a big master plan concept that was just brought in front of us today, but we can't start looking at that until we deal with what's been on the table for years. And this development, 129, It's going to be as crucial as a plan at the mill. And the number one issue I have right now is the housing. I think it's a little high. Maynard, there's residents that pride themselves on being a small town, tight community. Everyone knows everybody. And there's two sides to that. There's residents that would consider that, oh, new people, they feel a little threatened on the territory. It's just those who have lived here the longest. But schools, I don't know how many more kids we can fit in these schools, to be honest with you. I mean, we did get a nice new high school. But having gone through that system, having sat in those classrooms, I mean, right now there's teachers that are sharing classrooms, and we built a brand new building, and that kind of blows my mind, considering everyone had their own room in a school that lasted 60 years. So I'm sure, you know, as we heard a couple weeks ago, 30 extra school kids, yeah. But where do we draw the line in future developments? How many more apartment buildings can we squeeze in this small town? How many more housing units? So that's just something we really need to look at. And from my perspective, that's pretty much all I have to say on that point.
All right, thank you. So taking Chris's point, Bob, I'll give you an opportunity to chime in. I don't mean to put you on the spot about, you know, talking about sizes of uses and stuff, but I'm mostly interested in your desired timeline of action, and I'm guessing it's, you know, your timeline is probably a few weeks ago, but.
Years?
Yeah, it could be a while ago.
First, I'd like to thank the board for undertaking that study, you know, to basically assess the financial impact. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard pieces of it, and I think it's helpful to everybody to sort of give us a direction how to move the project forward. I also like some of the comments that I heard tonight, your idea as far as the housing goes. You know, we draw the line in the sand on 200 units. You know, I'd say no. I think 200 units of 40B has one financial impact. If we start taking, you know, reducing from 25 to 10%, you know, there's room to talk there. This is obviously a cost, you know, providing, you know, the 25% affordable. And, you know, I agree with you, getting the 3 bedrooms out of there is gonna create, you know, the biggest savings and impact to the town and the schools, because you look at the, you know, where the students come from, and it's in the higher bedroom units. It's not in the 1-bedroom units, and if we take 23 bedroom units, it's gonna save, you know, a good number of those 34 students, I guess, that the report had projected, and that's right in line with, you know, what our people are saying, which was like the 25 to 48 range on the housing. And again, as you said, you know, timing is everything with these projects. And we're into a development cycle on the retail end that is just coming out of a you know, multi-year slump. So the retailers are out there, they're looking to expand. But, you know, that doesn't last forever. You know, we saw from 2009, which was sort of the peak of the last market, to probably 2013, where very little retail development happened. Now they're starting to expand again. You know, we've got the supermarket that wants to come to Maynard, and they're ready to, you know, to do something now. And that'll bring the other retailers. We have this, you know, the operator for the independent living facility that wants to come to Maynard, you know, and anxious to build that facility here. And, you know, they just finished one in Westboro. I mean, you can go down and see it. It's a first-class facility. And I think, you know, people in Maynard would be very happy to have that facility here. You know, and again, it just, you know, where do we go from here, I guess, is the question. If the housing is the, you know, biggest hang-up here, we're willing to sit down and talk. And I think, you know, some of the ideas you had tonight, you know, great ideas to, you know, try and, you know, bridge the gap that we have between, you know, what we are and, you know, where, you know, people think it should be. And, you know, I think that's achievable.
That's good to hear. So, Kevin, I got a question for you. We're up here pretending the board's really going to be doing the heavy lifting, but it's going to be you and staff.
Sure.
So, you ready to spend your summer doing this?
Sure. Yes.
And Clark, and, oh, I'm sorry, Mill and Main?
Yeah, no, we're ready for the next step. We're ready to move these projects along, absolutely. Now's the time to do it, truthfully. I mean,
Yeah.
aside from my, luxurious vacations in the summertime. Yeah, this is actually the time where, we're focused on other projects, getting things done. Certainly you start getting into November and thereon, and then we're full budget mode, and, there's a lot more going on. So summertime and, early fall is really where, it's a good time to be doing a lot of this work.
Cool. All right, so.
Plus Bill Nimza doesn't sleep, so.
Yeah, that's true, he doesn't. So, yeah, that's a plus. And Chris will just give up a tea time or two. I think this whole project can just happen immediately.
There's a lot of,
This rain is
a lot
killing
of
me.
valuable hours there.
Wants to know what I'm doing home. It's not my fault.
All right, so I'm feeling pretty positive about this. I guess you probably need to talk to Whit and we'll strategize and make sure, he's pretty important to make sure he's available, I guess. But
Yep.
I don't know,
Yeah. I'll talk to John. We still have that request from the developer to come in with regards to the 40B thing. We've heard from your council. I don't know if that's still there as a desire, or we can, what do you think, Bob?
Well, I think maybe we sit down and have a meeting first and see if we can bridge the gap and,
Okay.
obviously we'd rather not go that route if we don't have to.
All right, so I'm hoping we can figure out more special meetings in the next couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah, I'll reach out to John and get a sense of where he's at with his current engagements, and go from there.
All right. I guess don't give away your evenings.
Again, and that impact analysis,
Yeah, I'll help a lot.
we'll send that out. Hopefully, get it by Friday.
Give Bob a copy.
Yeah, and Bob too. I was hoping to get it for the beginning of the week, as I told Bob, but I didn't want to send him the one we had because it's totally, there's no point on reading it. So the numbers have changed.
Yes, need to make a few corrections, but, okay, all right, that's good. All right, so, I guess, Kevin, we'll talk later this week about trying to get this rolling, but that's good.
Sounds good.
Two big projects in one night, I like it. Anything else from the board on the topic? All right, so, it may be a little redundant, but let's move on to item 10.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Item 10 being economic development update. Anything more to add?
Talking economic development. For an hour and a half, wow. A couple of things to note that, obviously, beyond the Saracen, just to follow up, Bill, you mentioned it, but to remind folks, everyone that's listening at home, that Saracen will be presenting a presentation on June 11th. It's sponsored by the Economic Development Committee. It's the Maynard Public Library at 6:30 on June 11th, Thursday. And then they'll also be attending a planning board meeting. I think they've been invited to come to the planning board, and I think that's set up for June 23rd. So they continue the dialogue and conversation, but encourage folks that didn't get an opportunity to ask questions of Saracen this evening, another venue opportunity, be a little more informal at the library on June 11th. Also, June 11th, MAPC is meeting for the MAPC Housing Production Plan. On the 11th, they're meeting with local developers and realtors and builders in the area to get a sense for that plan. And then on July 1, they're doing a visioning for the public here at Town Hall at 7 p.m. And that's July 1st, and that's a sort of a visioning with the public residents to weigh in on the housing production plan, and just to get a sense. If you ask who, you're going to get different answers in a general poll on the types of housing that residents want and would like to see. and the MAPC will facilitate that discussion and gather some of that input. You know, there's variations of multifamily and affordable housing versus market rate housing, and rentals versus ownership, and all that. So there's a public opportunity for that on July 1, again, here at Town Hall at 7 p.m.
All the topics are overlapping tonight.
Yeah. And then there's a survey being prepared by MAPC with staff and planning board input that's intended to gauge community's attitude on the housing. And that survey, they're anticipating will be releasing sometime after that in both an online and hard copy version. I talked about Saracen. Cultural District, a lot's been going on there. Tim Hess actually left, but he's really championed that project, and special thanks to him especially, who's really picked up the ball on getting the Cultural District application going, and again, he's been great. So they're expecting to complete that by early July, and we've discussed getting the Board of Selectmen resolution, so we'll have that on as soon as they complete that, you know, toward probably a July, August agenda item for a resolution to support the application. And I think Andrew and Bill are working closely with Tim on finalizing the prep for that application. What else? The planning board, we discussed briefly a little bit here about some of the need for zoning changes. The MBOD work that was requested by the Board of Selectmen is pretty much complete. I expect them to have that formal memo from Bill Nemser. What's that?
You mean by the planning board?
Yeah, the NBOD work that they were doing.
I think you said it has been completed by the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, apologize. It was requested, the work that was requested by the Board of Selectmen that the planning board has completed. So I did speak with Bill, and that's ready to go, so we can have that.
You luck? Do I get my hotel or what?
What's that?
Do I get my hotel?
I don't know. Yeah. We've had that discussion with Saracen more than once. And then also they're adding landscape standards to the planning board rules and regulations, that basically an internal governing document that they'll be using for to ensure minimum standards for during site plan review and things like that.
I thought you meant for existing homeowners. That meant I got to plant grass for it.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else?
Liquor license or liquor regulations?
Yeah, we're waiting. It's passed the consumer committee in the House, and it's with the Senate.
No, I meant for the review of the bylaw.
Oh, okay, I meant the home rule petition. You're talking about.
Tell us that too.
You're talking about the license that's due to be surrendered.
No, he's talking about
EDC was reviewing the.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what the status of that is.
Yeah.
I know it was on the agenda. Do you remember? No, for EDC.
Yeah, it was not discussed today. That work's essentially done. I think the problem is we haven't voted it at the EDC level to then actually hand it off to you guys. But the changes were
minimal.
Yeah, I think, didn't you even review them with you once?
Oh, yeah.
Gosh.
No, I don't remember.
So.
What the?
No, I mean, the basic question was, are our rules stricter than they need to be? And
correct.
The only,
It's difficult.
Didn't we discuss the liquor rules a couple of weeks ago? A couple of meetings ago, we discussed it because we talked about, being within some X number of feet of somebody's house, so.
Yeah.
That was a butter notification, although that was a subset of the liquor rules, you're right.
I have the notes, and I'll make sure that it's on the next agenda. They meet the same day this board does, so we could put it on the agenda, and then if it's voted, present it at that meeting that night.
But since you brought it up, how are we doing with the 2 liquor licenses that are gonna be?
So the Savoring Indian Cuisine is scheduled to come at our next meeting on the 16th, and the Peyton's license is what it is, effective June 30th. We haven't received a transfer application or anything, so at this point.
Still on Craigslist.
Yeah.
Would you typically have heard, if something was going to happen by the 30th of June, would you typically have heard, because they have to get it in the paper, they have to
Yeah,
get,
they have to do advertising and get before the board, yeah.
they have to have 14 days in the paper, right? So their time is really running out.
Yeah, yeah. Considering we meet 14 days from today, too. So the way, that one I'm too concerned about, because they haven't reached back to us. But at the same time, they're under a signed agreement by the owner and the board that they'll voluntarily surrender that license as of June 30th. So I think that opportunity is there. I know that the brew pub is at the top of the list now that has an interest. So if that is the case, I would see that licensing become available, and I would anticipate an application from them. And then again, Saracen is planning to come on the 16th to provide an update where they're at.
Not Saracen.
I'm sorry,
Savoring.
across the street. Savoring Indian Cuisine is coming on the 16th, and then the status of the home rule petition again is still with the Senate. That passed, was approved at the House committee, and we're awaiting that. I haven't had any issues anyway, but Brett Logan's office has been great about keeping us updated on it.
Good.
That's it on economic development.
All right. You want to roll
Good,
in?
a lot of economic
Plus the
development.
hour and a half that we spent.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that too.
TA updates, be brief. Couple of good news, the Meyer insurance credits have been submitted. We're anticipating seeing the results of that, which will result in a reduced fee for our FY16 payment. With the insurance credits, a lot of the courses that Maya offers and other courses that they also offer credit for that aren't Maya-sponsored courses that staff attend result in real dollars and actual real credits back to us. So we typically take advantage of 2 credits, one being the Maya education credits. So whether we host events, we go to other events that other communities are going to, and then we go to multiple other training sessions, the police, fire, DPW, et cetera. Submit all of those, and then they review them, and they give us a credit for most of the courses, some they don't credit. We receive actual
Credits and premium reduction?
We get credit for our credit reduction, yeah. So there's actual premium reduction on our payment. And the other one that we get is the early payment premium reduction credit, if you will. So we always try to get the training credits in, and then we always pay before July 15th. And then it's drastic because it's a pretty decent amount of money.
You know, does it translate into percentage points off of that 9% increase that we had, or?
Yeah, it's about $14,000 to $15,000.
Right. It's about $15,000 of money off of the next, yeah.
And the increase is going to be 20, so.
Oh.
And this is liability and risk. This isn't health insurance.
Oh, okay, this isn't health.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
So this premium wasn't that high.
Gotcha.
But it did go up because we added some stuff and newer stuff.
I thought you were talking
came on.
health
No,
insurance.
not health insurance. It's the liability stuff. But last week, met with Saracen Properties and Representative Hogan's office. I coordinated several state agencies, town and Saracen, to review some potential opportunities for private-public grants and just to make the connections for the town as well as for the folks at Saracen on individuals that are in that office and in those offices that could be of assistance, mass development, office of economic development. We also had the 495 Metro West Partnership in attendance with us, and it was a great meeting, great networking opportunity, ability to see what might be out there, get things, sort of thinking outside the box and looking at opportunities for that project. But we've also looked at potentially inviting the secretary for Department of Housing and Economic Development, he wasn't there, his representative from his office expressed that the secretary might like to come out and see that project and things like that. As the Saracen project gets sort of more public, I think there'll be a lot of interest around it because it is such a unique project in the fact of what it is with the mill space. So they were excited about that. We then followed up with a follow-up meeting with 495 Metro West Partnership that we invited and coordinated a meeting with our staff and with them and brought them over to Saracen. So it was kind of, they had an initial introduction and then we had a meeting afterwards, and that was great. They were able to make those connections, present the plan to them, and they're a great resource in many ways, but they're also an avenue for when it comes to economic development, because they have a lot of tenants that are seeking space, various sizes of space. They'll reach out to them and contact them and so, make them aware of what's available in the 495 Metro West region. So it's good for them to see that space so they can help market it. The open table piece, we introduced more opportunities for temporary locations. They're still looking. In fact, the latest one we had conversations with for an interim place was at Savoring as an opportunity, as they're closed and they have a functional kitchen. It didn't look like that's going to pan out. So we continue to work with those folks and as much as we can to support them finding a temporary and permanent home. I mentioned the Haynes Square, the Haynes Street. The other thing I have is we started negotiations with the NEPBA dispatch union and continuing the negotiations with the fire union. Had an opportunity, Andrew and I had an opportunity to attend the Mass Municipal Managers Association spring conference, annual association group, which was good. And I also, myself and some of the emergency management team attended the MEMA statewide regional sheltering operations seminar that they're revealing and looking for feedback on what will be their final. It's 4 years in the making of a regional shelter evacuation plan for our region. So that's all I have. Am I saying? Pretty good.
All right, that's pretty good. For the chair report, I only got one thing. And that's, despite the fact that I heard everybody promise that they're going to go to lots of extra meetings this month for 129 Parker, we also have a special meeting on June 30 for the discuss the Coolidge School Committee findings, and they're apparently waiting to the last second on their charge to have a report by June 30, and it happens to coincide with our occasional 5th Tuesday of the month schedule. So we got a meeting June 30, but the only topic is Coolidge School. None of the other stuff. It's just what they have to say and ask your questions. So we'll get that posted for regular time. That's a Tuesday. But that's all I got. So I'll open up to board member reports. Jason.
Actually, to follow up Kevin's comments on our assistance with Open Table, David and I attended a small meeting, took a walk through the pantry with Senator Eldridge, Representative Hogan last evening to talk about some next steps with the Open Table folks, to go through some of the lists of where they've looked around in town, sort of, and then sort of what they have left. And Dave, you can jump in if you have anything else to add on that. But including I offered them a few other places that they didn't have on their list. Some other locations in town that they may be able to use as a temporary location.
The only comment I would make is when you see what service they provide and you see it in action, And you see that it's helping as they presented the number, and I don't remember the exact number, but for the month of March, which they consider to be a slow month for them, there were over 300 residents of Maynard.
75 households.
75 households that utilized the services provided by Open Table. This is big for this community, for a number of residents in our community, and it's not just stand in line, pick up a bag of groceries. They have a mini supermarket that they have inside where people go through and they can choose what they need for their week. There are people out there that are struggling, and this is one of the organizations, the Boston Food Bank, that, I mean, it's remarkable. And the number of volunteers that are Maynard residents that they commented on that that participate every single week to make this. This is a community thing. So I want to do whatever we possibly can, and I know we are making the efforts. And I think they very much appreciate the efforts. But I want to do everything we possibly can to help them make sure that they can continue with the mission that they have, because it is incredibly important to so many people who otherwise wouldn't have any place to go. And people ask, well, why does it have to be in Maynard? And another issue they made was that a large number of these people that are being served by this organization don't have transportation. And so they walk there. So the closer to downtown Maynard that it is, the better off they are. But I was touched by what I saw, and I think it's an incredible organization and an incredible process that they go through to serve so many people, and the large majority of the people that are there are volunteers. It's just really, really something to see.
Thanks. One other thing, Bill, because I think you were adamant last meeting, the TA review forms.
Thank you.
We're down to 16 days, I believe. We had 30 from last go around, so. I think
Right,
we
that
have
was the
16
second thing
days.
on my report, I forgot all about that. Yes.
I had missed that they were even on Dropbox, and
Yep, they are.
they are now.
They are.
I saw that.
Everybody started working on it,
I
right?
had not.
I have my appointment to sit with Mr. Sweet already lined up.
Nice! All right, excellent.
That's it for me.
Me?
Yes, please.
Okay. I have a couple items. First off, I noticed that they have begun, or we have begun, sidewalk improvements down Parker Street. And at least that's what it looks like.
That would be
Yes.
the folks who are responsible for those sidewalks on Parker Street.
Who are those folks?
Mr. McDonald.
No, I'm talking
Talking
about
the
Parker
there
Street.
was some, yeah, there was
Basically in front of 129 Parker Street.
those were part of the ADA.
And my
access
question, the
stuff.
reason I bring it up is I was questioning the wisdom of doing that now when there is going to be upgrades to that location in a matter of a few years. And is it a wise investment on our part to put down, I know that I can testify that the sidewalks are in bad shape at that location, but I'm just wondering if there could have been a better location to upgrade so that in 2 or 3 years, when the time comes for that upgrade, or hopefully shorter, that we don't rip up what we just put down.
Is that a question?
It's a comment, question, if you want to comment.
Yeah, I
on
mean,
it.
it's been on the list for a while. It's a high target area for student activity.
It absolutely is.
And that's the focus of it. It's been something that the school committee, school superintendent, residents have been pushing for a long time, and yeah, I don't think it's going to change much of an impact with that project, other than maybe we could have got some funds to do it, but in the meantime, it's definitely a safety concern, and that's what took priority.
Okay.
The rest of the sidewalks in town, i.e. Thompson Street, for instance, is an area that they're being done, was all part of the beta assessment report for sidewalk conditions, and that was the priority for those. that was done off of the pavement management system.
Okay. And I did note.
Yeah, I haven't seen the ones on the sidewalks on Parker, but I had seen the ones on Thompson,
Right.
Walnut, and a few others in town.
Basically, it goes from the end of the tennis courts all the way up to the entrance of 129 Parker. But they
It's been on the list for a
They dug
while.
some holes and they filled up with water pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But they seem to have fixed it, 'cause it's all flattened now. But anyway, that was point one. Point two, I want to congratulate the community, and I want to congratulate Bill for Memorial Day and the presentation that Bill made at Memorial Day. It was an excellent commentary. The one thing I've heard now from 5 or 6 people, when you hear something from 5 or 6 people, it becomes evident that it's clearly an issue. The sound system needs to be improved. I know just 3 or 4 years ago, we purchased with PEG access money a new microphone system, and it worked fine, as far as I knew, for the last 3 or 4 years. I'm wondering, first off, if we had the right one there on Memorial Day, or if it was the old one. If we had the right one, we need to upgrade again, because so many people, well, 5 people at least, have said to me that they were disappointed they could not hear. There were, not only were there a couple of speeches, but there were people that sang, there were people that orated the Gettysburg Address.
Yeah, the police chief and I have already discussed it, and he was actually right by Bill, who was moved and touched by your speech and thought you did a great job, but he also said that he could barely hear it, so he was confident that nobody else could. So, yeah, we've had that discussion, and he's provided that information, so I agree with you.
Yeah, it was a great turnout, great crowd of people that were there. So I was close enough to Bill to be able to hear it. And,
Not really the point, though.
What?
It's not really the point. The point is for everybody to
That's
hear.
right. And the next thing is, I was stopped on Friday by a business owner who has a business on Main Street, and she commented to me that 3 times in the recent week and a half, 2 weeks, twice on one day, there has been traffic going the wrong way on Main Street at she said at least 35 miles an hour. And I asked her where would this traffic be coming from. She called the police and mentioned it to them. She said they told her that she should come to our board meeting and speak to it, and she said she couldn't be here. But she said that she imagines, based on where her location is, that they're coming out of McDonald's and taking a left and heading down Main Street.
Evenings?
She said, well, I don't think she's open in the evenings, so it's daytime. And she
Happened
called.
to me once coming home from work.
Called down and spoke.
Leaving for home, and so it was right there coming out of McDonald's.
At night, it's
It was
a little
5 o'clock.
more unclear. But
It was,
Called Noble, Sergeant Noble, Lieutenant Noble,
Yeah.
and he told her to come here to let us know, because there would be signage or whatever.
issues, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll talk with the chief.
So, and the comment I made to her is that it's scary to think, because I'm trained when I cross Main Street to just look one direction.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to get me, they know how to get me.
we do now.
Then lastly, I just want to congratulate the students of the Maynard High School class of 2015 who will be graduating Friday night, or Saturday afternoon, I guess it is, Saturday afternoon. You see the list of the kids that are graduating, and now it's getting to the point where I know many of these kids where, they have grown up around me, and you see the schools that they're going to, and it's a great testament. And if you want to see where they're going, you can go inside the high school, and they have them posted on the wall and whatever. But it's a great testament to our community, great testament to our school system as to the success that these kids are having. And I wish them all well. That is it.
All right, excellent. Chris?
Yeah, well, to Dave's point earlier in the Fowler discussion about the Fowler development and the impending projects, the two projects we discussed tonight among others, it would seem as though, the Fowler Street project in itself is just another example of a lack of adherence to the development principles and those type of things that we continue to beat like a dead horse. But, now that we have a couple rather large opportunities before us, I think it really becomes important that we, make sure that not only the five of us, but everybody else that's making decisions or, voting on decisions that are going to affect the town that we stick to them. Specifically, 129 and in the mill, there are community development principles that are in effect. When you talk about the changes they're going to make there, I think it's important that we be on the same page as the planning board insofar as the fact that they exist and that they should be implemented. It's because clearly they're not. Based on Keene Avenue and that development, based on all these other things that have gone on in the last 9 months, 8 months since we've been here. You've seen just a whole list of people and developments and things that have taken place that don't pay attention to them at all. I think it's important that we've talked a little bit about having some way to get together that we all communicate and we're all on the same page. I think now is the time, especially since there's on some of the boards there's some open seats and people looking for appointments. I think it's important that we exert our influence over those boards in the appointments that we make, in suggesting that they adhere to the principles that have been established and ignored. And that's it. It's my only rant.
I mean, that's an interesting point, because it reminds me that the first couple of years that we had it, we actually had a project checklist, and every time a board or a committee had to deal with a project, they had to go through the community development plan checklist, and it was pretty simple, and they said why they would do it or why they had to not do it, and the whole point was just to keep everybody aware of it and thinking of it.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I don't know that it's thought of much.
I would add to that, and Kevin, you can probably be clear. My understanding is Bill Nemser has a list of the community development guidelines is on their decisions now, where they basically
he ties every single staff report that he does, which
Staff
is done
reports.
by the, which is, it's not a public staff report, it's for the board. He ties in the community development principles with that, whether or not the board votes a certain way or adheres to something a certain way. But he, at least on the staff level, is considering it for every project. Yeah. Which I don't think it was prior to that, so.
Fowler Street was done before his time.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, Fowler Street was done before his time, and having started that, Fowler Street was a conscious decision to make Fowler Street Extension look like Fowler Street and not have a runway attached to a 15-foot, broken concrete or broken asphalt roadway.
Right.
I mean, it was there to try and present some level of character for the addition of 4 houses.
Right.
You can say what you want about, what you're adhering to. It's looked at on a case-by-case basis. Whether we want to do that or we want everything, we can put everything in the way they did it in the mid-'80s with like the Rio roads and all that, where it's 65 feet of pavement, because that was what was in the subdivision guidelines. I think,
Are we gonna have this conversation again next meeting? Because don't we have another poll hearing?
We do.
The what?
Poll hearing.
Oh,
I think that
poll
one's
hearing.
a little different, though.
Okay. All right, well, maybe we'll be a little better.
What street is it? It's one on Keene, right?
All right,
Well,
we'll deal with it.
I won't drag it out, but to Jason's point, maybe the approach should be that, I would think the community wants to get our utilities underground as a general rule. So why wasn't the approach to ask the developer to put all of those utility poles underground, and then you would have the consistency. I don't care about the width of the street. I think you're absolutely correct. It makes no sense to come up this narrow road and then have this wide thing. But the utility poles is a different thing in my eyes.
As the emergency management director, I would echo that. Yeah, anytime you have underground utility opportunities, it's the way to go, but I look at it similar to, septic systems. I mean, when there's sewer available, you're required to connect unless there's some, variation to the norm that allows for installation of a subsurface sewage system. And I think they're not all cookie cutter, and that projects have to be looked at individually as long as they are looking at it. But yeah, I think the Fowler Street one is unique. I agree. But certainly, I think it's that if you consider look at the last 6 years, how many pole setting hearings we've had. None. So I think the projects, I think they've been adhering, at least with that stuff. If you've looked at what's gone in, they've been following that. But there is the Fowler Street extension was that oddity, that unique project. So
Okay.
thank God we're not dealing with these on a regular basis.
Yeah. Has the police department successfully transitioned from civil service to their new hiring?
The police department has, yeah. We're still waiting on the, it was actually today, waiting on, from the public safety, it was at the public safety committee today. I don't have a ruling yet from the House, Public Safety Committee, and it'll go from there. But yeah, it's following the process, within there. But the time frame is as of the town meeting date that they've been out of civil service. It's somewhat of a rubber stamp process.
Okay. Anything else, Tim? Nope. Anything else, Kevin, or can I make a motion to adjourn?
I have nothing else.
All right. Motion to adjourn, do we have a second?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?